hello. Oh, no one will hear anything, will they, for a moment? Oh, hello, everyone.
Hello, whispering.
Sorry, it's late.
We've already been told by Kiki we're too loud tonight.
Yeah, the telly, she said, can you turn that programme down, please? And it was Happy Valley. Do you see how tiny James Norton's phone was in prison?
It's because I think you have to, the way
Well,
you
of
have
course,
to
I
transport
just didn't know
it.
that phones were that small. I didn't know you could get phones that big.
It wasn't that big.
It was tiny. Did anyone else see how tiny his phone was?
So what did you think?
I'll tell you one thing I am thinking. I don't like James Norton's hair. It's too Jesus. It's too Jesus. And now that he's came face to face with a priest, the religious things are going too far. Hi, everyone. Hi, Alison. Hi, April. So, tiniest phone I've ever seen, says Maria H. Yeah, see? Ridiculous. We're going to be watching the Harry interview. And did you see that there's a documentary on Channel 4 about the Kardashians?
There is.
You're right. So what did you think of it?
What do you ever say to me these days?
Well, because you're sitting there looking
I was just letting you talk because I didn't want to be too loud for Kiki.
So you don't want to... Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it wasn't as good as the first episode.
I totally disagree.
But But I loved it. Absolutely loved it. I thought it was a bit more telling the story. I found the bits with the battered wife and the pharmacist just a bit pedestrian, and we didn't get so much pedestrian in the previous episode. It was a bit...
Oh, yeah, I think I'm going to have to say about them. I think I hate to single out certain actors. I think their scenes lack depth.
Yeah.
They lack depth, and they lack authority in a sense. What I mean by that is not that they're authoritative figures, because they're not. They're both, scrabbling around for survival. But she seems to have kind of spiraled too quickly. I can't believe this happens with... what is it? What's the bloody thing called? I know it's Valium, but what's the name they used in it?
Diazepam.
Diazepam.
But I do think that's the
Well,
frantic...
Elliot says the pharmacist overacts. If you're not coming off the fence, then we're not.
The franticness. Yeah, it's just a little bit too comedy almost. I think there's a bit too much acting maybe in those scenes. And I think that's hard because I think that Sarah Lancashire just is an actress that just tells the truth, doesn't she? She doesn't act, she is. So you do get really... Anyone that isn't of that level gets really spotlit, I think.
The reason I thought it was better than last week is that, granted, I think the first episode had similar moments with the pharmacist and the woman, and even, I hate to say it, the sports teacher, who's a little bit two-dimensional in his just being horrible, like walking through the door, going into the kitchen. I just believe there would be even more of a kind of an attempt to hide it from the kids. It's a little bit too...
There are those real brutes that just don't.
Yeah, but I would have been more interested to have had that layered a bit more.
I do think that there are people exactly like that, but I think, as a character that you're watching, you want a bit more... Because if he's just shouting all the time, you want a little bit more... You want him to be a bit more sinister, I think. I'd have liked more of a sinister lay, because I felt like we got exactly what we got last week.
But the reason I thought...
I liked the interesting character trait that the wife brought in, that he has this repetitive need to get obsessed with somebody, and then he knocks them down and then wants to build them up and become a savior. I thought, well, that's going to be interesting. I've never seen that sort of thing in a domestic violence storyline like this, so I quite like that.
What I would say is that the sheer strength and depth of Sarah Lancashire's performance and her relationship with her sister, for me, overwhelmed the episode in a good way. I could sit and watch Sarah Lancashire looking at someone for hours. And I might actually go and find her and watch her look at people for hours.
And then every episode, well, last week's episode and this week, and every episode ever of Happy Valley, there is always a standout scene where she shows her absolute brilliance. She can wipe the floor with princes and paupers, and she's just so smart. And that incredible scene in the headmaster's office. Now, if Ryan had done it, she would have arrested him. But she was like,
told him off.
But she would have done whatever she needed to do. But the way she wiped the floor, it's her character that I just love.
Well, she's so manifest.
She always plays such great things.
An officer who's been in the force for 40 odd years. At the end of her game, she's seen everything. She knows everything. Going back to that crime scene where she knew the entire backstory of the set of teeth she'd found in the quarry. Do you remember?
Well, that's what I mean. That was the equivalent of that scene, wasn't it, last week? So there's always like a slam dunk scene. Last week, the scene that I just absolutely adored was the one that she was walking all the way through the station with the woman trying to organise the party for her. She just wiped the floor with her.
Do you know what? I'd make a bold suggestion if I'd seen the script for this. I'd have said hold James Norton back. I feel none of his scenes have added anything for me. None of his scenes have added anything. And if you have this
it's just a little bit too much play acting with it. Yeah. Again, that's why I think it was a bit weaker, the episode
think structurally, if you were to have 3 episodes, you've got this narrative, which I think is a really strong narrative of who's taking Ryan to the prison, Sarah Lancashire not wanting to confront too early, wanting to observe. I thought that was an interesting, kind of police move, wasn't it? We'd want to confront straight away, but she wants to observe. If you had that narrative going and we'd got to this point in the series and we hadn't seen James Norton, I think it would be so much more powerful. Because actually he's done nothing critical to any of the other sub-stories, the pharmacist...
Excuse me, I think the majority of women across the country wouldn't really want to wait till episode 3 for Mr. Norton.
Yeah, but he looks ridiculous with his hair and his tiny mobile phone. He looks utterly ridiculous.
I think he should be in it all the way through. He's a huge star and he's a huge part of the previous series. But I just think they haven't done it very well.
Shivy, how tiny was that mobile phone?
That's what the problem is. They just haven't done it very well. It's a bit sort of, made for TV prison scenes.
What about the scene with the pharmacist and the dealer? The dealer is
so good.
Petrifying.
Petrifying.
Oh my God, he's getting married. And yet who's marrying him? Who's he marrying? I mean,
and now he's just going to try possibly kill off the poor woman in the domestic violence.
Now, what do we think? Because obviously, in every crime procedural, even when it's as emotionally deep, what I love about this is you're carrying all the emotion of Sarah Lancashire's. Borrowed it from Bob. You've got all of the depth of Sarah Lancashire's grief, everything she's gone through in every episode before, her sister and her addiction. So you've got that great depth there. But even so, there's got to be a death. There's got to be someone who dies in this. Who do you think is going to be the death? Do you think the sports teacher?
Well, the domestic violence character woman could very well be killed next.
By the dealer.
But Sarah Lancashire could go after the husband. So wouldn't that be amazing if he was wrongfully arrested?
Who?
The teacher.
I don't understand what you're saying.
Because Sarah Lancashire will believe that it's him because she's got this history of domestic violence. So she could get in trouble with the police because they could say that she is doing it because of the problems with her son.
I disagree. I think the dealer said he can. That the pharmacist needs to deal with both of them.
Yeah, but I think she'd go first. I think he'll deal with the wife first because she's the most dangerous because she's blackmailing, and then the husband. I think, but in the interim, Sarah Lancashire will arrest the husband.
See, the pharmacist is having a really bad day because he's got a profligate family that want driving lessons and new patios.
Decking.
15
grand. Oh. Her sister's got one.
Yeah, and he feels squeezed. He feels between a rock and a hard place. He's between a rock and a really horrible place, isn't he?
Elsa Pop says she thinks that Sarah Lancashire will die because she's so looking forward to her retirement. And don't forget, it's not coming back.
Don't say that. This is like Guardians of the Galaxy. We're going to lose a major character. Elsa Pop, why have you even parked that thought in our head?
Elsa, you bad person.
Rhys Roberts makes a point. The unevenness in BBC One shows always proves my point. I think the overcommitment to keep mainstream or commercially viable ultimately weakens the shows they produce. I think that was in reference to what we were saying about those slightly kind of two-dimensional, paper-thin scenes that were kind of in there, which is a shame because the rest of it is so rich. Elsa Pop thinks that, Faith Goodman says the dealer is like Anthony Hopkins in Silence of the Lambs, sucking his teeth. Okay, well, look, the final scene was the powerful in Leeds coffee shop scene. That was sensational. I mean, something so simple as a coffee shop in Leeds and a woman standing outside on a phone. That's all you need.
But I kept thinking all the way through it, just in that sisterly way, she's just going to feel she's behind her. I was willing that the director had just got her to turn around and just see her because it was like the sheer force that she was putting out, looking at her sister through that window. Don't you think it would have been really good if she just suddenly turned around, just felt it?
Yeah.
Because she was carrying the guilt. She had a guilty conscience. It's the kind of thing she'd almost think, is she here? Especially when you think of their relationship and that she's a police officer and she knows the way she looks into anything.
I entirely agree. And I think if she had turned around, it would have
better
also,
than her walking in.
Yeah, it would have also added a little layer of that inherent knowledge of sisters knowing of each other.
Exactly, that's what I mean. It would have been
Yeah.
so
No,
good.
it would have been really.
And all her life, she's been.
Are we keeping you?
I'm taking my bra off, so it's so.
You're what? Curious time to do it. We're
Just pulling on my shoulders.
Christ. Oh, hang on a minute. I've just got to take my pants off.
That's it.
I managed to somehow pull them.
You know, just sometimes when you just can't bear enough a minute. I couldn't find my nice bra. I was wearing my horrible bra. And it's really uncomfortable.
Elliot says that was one of the greatest scenes on television. I too wanted to. Yeah,
me taking my bra off.
Yeah, I too wanted her to turn around.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
It would have been the greatest scene on television if she had.
I find that really strange that nobody thought of that.
I think because people would have thought it wasn't
I wonder if
believable.
of course it is believable. I wonder if the two
didn't know
actresses have siblings.
Yeah.
Because I think if they did have sisters, they might have thought of that.
Yeah. Anyway.
Male director.
Fantastic.
Is it a male director?
Possibly, I don't know.
You know that thing that women have with each other
instinct.
when they go, oh my fucking Christ, it feels like she's here. Yeah. We gotta go. Just her geeks gone.
Anyway, see you tomorrow. Bye.